Call the Kitty Hawk Town Council to order this April 7th, 2014 in Kitty Hawk Town Hall at 6 p.m. Glad to see all of you out. We don't usually enjoy such a nice audience. What a nice-looking group of young people. Wow. Would you join us in a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next, we'll call for approval of the agenda, and I want to remove 10E, the CIP, and we'll remove that and redo it on May 12th during the budget workshop. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve as amended.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next, we have presentations. We have First Flight High School students. There are two groups. They both look very nice. Who's going to introduce? Jump up here.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Graham Small, this is Jack Moby, Reed Kelly, and Heath Spry, and we are here with our civics class from 10th grade honors, and we are just presenting our local making event exchange.
Young man, I think, don't we need you to be up closer to the microphone? We upgraded our system and we lost our walk-around mic. I'm not sure if we made progress or not, but that's the way it is.
So our proposal is we would like to propose a bike path in addition to the west side of Highway 12 or the Beach Road from the Kitty Hawk Kidover Hills line to East Balkan Street.
The objective, we will have proposed the idea of creating an off the beach or off the road sidewalk / bike path on Highway 12 in Kitty Hawk. The bike path will be constructed on the western side of the highway, therefore decreasing chances of damage. Accepting this proposal will lower the percent of people injured on bikes and lower the amount of injuries on bikes while riding at night. This will create a more safe and ideal bike ride on the highway in C12.
And our requirements needed, personnel will be needed to construct the bike path, NC DOT officials, and I guess they'll be needed to design the path accordingly and have minimal flaws which secure safety for riders. And labor time is a large variable in this local project, but will benefit all locals and tourists if constructed, and for anybody who rides the bike path.
The placement and expectations. Expected placement would be from Sand Dune Drive south to Kitty Hawk / Kidover Hills line. The expectations of our bike path will increase the value of beachfront houses, help the businesses throughout the beach road, as well as used for recreational purposes. Price range estimated by RPC was $285,000, $120 to $326 and $300.
The daily maintenance of this bike path will be cleaning and regulatory maintenance of public transportation. The possibility of a storm is always in concern, but the benefit of saving lives we do think is priceless.
Alright, we looked up some yearly stats, and the yearly stats are between 150 and 200 bike riders killed. In addition to 500 are seriously injured. Nighttime bike riders are 42% of the bicycle deaths. Started taking records of the deaths on Outer Banks in 1913. 3 pedestrians were killed last summer on Highway 158, In 2012, an unidentified man was hit and killed on the beach road in 2012. 2 people were severely injured after being hit by a pickup on Highway 158.
And our cost-benefit analysis, like we said in previous slides, could range from $285,120 to $326,300. That's according to RPC. The town will benefit from this, having less deaths on bikes and more bicycle friendly people, opposed to driving around all the time and wasting more money on gas than preserving the money. And it would be a safer environment for anybody outside.
And that's all.
Any questions?
Council members? Em, you got anything you'd like to add? You live out there.
No, one of the things that will be an obstacle is CAMA, okay? And the reason for that is that in a lot of places on the west side of the beach road are actually the stable line of vegetation in the CAMA regulations. So I don't know if you have looked into that or not, but that's always an obstacle when it comes to paths on that side of the road. I think it's, I'm pretty sure, in fact, I won't say I'm certain, but I'm about certain that it is part of our recreation master plan to look at a path along the west side of the beach road. And there has been some effort to look at that, and most of the time we come away with, oh my gosh, that's just too hard. But yeah, but it's certainly a worthy project, and I thank you for bringing it forward.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good presentation. Thank you. And who is next?
Okay, hello. I'm Justin Savage, and this is my classmates Kelly Weisbecker, my brother Hunter, Ricky Carroll, and Carla Hardy. We're all sophomores at First Flight High School, and we are going to be speaking to you about a proposal for a way to prevent pedestrian deaths or injuries on the beach road. So, without further ado, Kelly.
Okay, so there were over 110,000 people injured or killed by motor vehicle accidents in 2010. That a number to me is just astounding. I mean, it's a lot of people. From 2008 to 2011, Kitty Hawk and Kitty Hawk alcohol-related accidents have increased from 3.86% to 5.04%. A lot of that is obviously intoxication, but it could also be prevented by having better visibility at night, because that's generally when most people that are intoxicated are driving, when it's dark after the bars have closed. The goal of this project would be to protect the pedestrians crossing the street by alerting drivers of their presence without costing a lot of money. Basically what it is it's reflective flags, much like you see on the back of trucks that carry large loads or loads that exceed they're like the trailer line, that are reflective. What they would do is they just carry it across the street, the beach access crosswalk with them. And it would give them better visibility because it would reflect off of the headlights of the oncoming traffic. So that's what we're looking at. Our plan is to place reflective pedestrian flags at busy intersections along the beach road and C12 South. When a pedestrian crosses a street, basically there'll be a bucket on the street pole where the stoplight is, like where you push the button, and there will be flags in the bucket, and you pick one up and you carry the flag to the other side
while you're crossing. So if any cars are coming and for some reason they wouldn't see you otherwise, that'll alert them. Like if you happen to be wearing dark clothing and it's night, you will be seen more and could save your life. Why flags? Standard pedestrian crossings are not sufficient to protect beachgoers from passing cars. Many fatal accidents result from drivers not seeing the pedestrian due to lack of visibility. Our resources would be the pedestrian flags, which would be made out of a reflective material, and the flag buckets. This picture here is from a place in Florida where they have used this system, and it's worked really well, and we looked up on their town's website, and they've had like a decrease in pedestrian deaths since they've implemented this program.
The maintenance required to uphold these flags and pedestrian walk places, so that for times of storm like hurricanes like we have, they would maybe be removed for those periods. And if they were damaged or stolen, they would have to be replaced with brand new flags. The locations that we've seen would benefit the most from these flags would be Balkan Street, Bennett, Bellariat, Funk, Hawks, Lillian, Maynard, and Wilkins Streets, because they have those pedestrian pathways and could prevent the most casualties.
So this is the cost we're looking at for this program, and so it's $6.98 per flag for just the flag part, and then $4.50 per bucket. And it could be expanded to any size we needed, but for what we previously stated as our idea, it would be $72 for buckets and $446.72 for flags, which ends up about $500, and that $500 would be saving lives of local residents and tourists. And I mean, if we can save lives for $500, it doesn't really matter how many lives we saved, as long as we saved one. It's probably worth $500. And lowering the likelihood of a fatal accident along the beach road is definitely worth it. So that concludes our presentation. Are there any questions?
That's a neat
It's a good idea.
initiative idea. I would never have thought of that. Did you Google that, or did somebody go to Florida?
It's her idea.
Yeah.
My sister lives in Florida, about 45 minutes away from Flagler Beach, where the program was implemented. And as we were driving along, my dad actually saw it, and was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. So we looked into it a bit more, and then Civics, it was making a difference project, and I was like, maybe we could help out somehow, so that's how it came out.
That's
I
good.
think we'll look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's worth.
I like this, and if we could, add Bird Street to one of your accesses. That's a pretty big,
Yeah, that's
I didn't see Bird Street on.
Those 8 were the ones put on the Kitty Hawk Town Hall's website as having public parking. So those, I think, were the 8 that we selected specifically because of parking.
We have these on our server now, this presentation, both of these presentations? No?
We can get them.
We could get them.
Yeah,
I'm sure we can
and the
get
reason I ask is, that's something that, Jeff, you might want to, for both of them, because, you know, the business with CAMA, it may not be on that stretch that they are looking at on the west side of the beach road. And, you know, it helps the recreation committee when they have the kids come in like this to kind of promote a project, so.
I'd like to forward this to
Yeah,
them if
the
I
next-
could, if I could get the information and
Yeah, at the
forward it
next-
to them
at the next
at our
meeting.
next meeting.
Yeah, at the next meeting, we can present these two to the recreation committee and see what they come up with,
I'd be glad to.
yeah.
Good job.
Thank you. Good job.
Good job, thank you. Good job, both of you. Always nice to see this, isn't it? All right, and next we have Dennis D. Raimondo, Outer Bank Sportings. I remember you.
And Linda Wood.
Well, she wasn't down. She came anyway. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thank you, Mayor Perry and members of the council for allowing Dennis and me to come and speak with you tonight. Dennis, by the way, for those that don't know, is new to Outer Banks Sporting Events. He moved here in September of 2013. He came from Pennsylvania. He's been a long-distance runner since middle school and has about 10 years of race direction experience. So we're very happy to have him join our staff and bring his enthusiasm and fresh ideas. And with that, you know that Outer Banks Sporting Events is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to give back to the community, to support public education and people in need. We also, is this what I use? Use this. We also support economic development and the economic impact in Dare County. We purposefully schedule our events during the shoulder season when our businesses most need the visitors here that aren't here during the tourist season. We bring large numbers of participants, over 10,000 every year, and those participants tell us how many people they bring with them and how long they stay. And this past year, 2 visitors came with each of those participants, and that was for a total of about 30,000 visitors here during the event weekends to participate in those events. This past year, 26% of those participants said that it was their first time visit to the Outer Banks. So we are exposing new visitors to the Outer Banks whose purpose is to come here and run the events. And so we feel like that we are generating impact that might not necessarily be affected otherwise. We create jobs by allowing our restaurants to stay open longer, creating business for our hotels, motels, property management, which is really, that aspect of the impact has really grown over the years. And we buy a lot of supplies, food, beverage, our marketing and design, t-shirts, and we rent things like porta potties. All of those things, we spend money locally with our local business owners to support them as well. The 4 major events, the dates this year are for the Flying Pirate Half Marathon and First Flight 5K. It's coming up just in about a month, May 2nd through the 4th. And I think there's a little competition going on with the First Flight 5K. You may have heard of the Couch to 5K, and there's some competition among the other towns and government agencies. And I'm hoping that maybe some of you will participate as a part of the town of Kitty Hawk and get involved in making healthy choices and being active and showing our young people that it's good to get out and get some exercise and do something that's very positive for yourself and for your health. By the way, the First Flight 5K is sold out, but those of you that haven't registered yet for the Couch to 5K, we have slots open for you, so register this week. Storm the Beach is our adventure race obstacle course that is going to be held start and finish at Jeanette's Pier this year in Nags Head, June 14th and 15th. This is a very family-friendly and team-oriented event, and the participants that were involved last year, many of them who had participated in events outside of Dare County that were obstacle courses and adventure races, said this was the most fun event they had ever participated in. So we're looking forward to that, and Dennis is going to tell you a little bit more about that event in a few minutes. The Outer Banks Triathlon's in September, the 12th through the 14th this year. And that event has been selling out for the last 2 years, and registration is going really strong for all of our events this year, and so we expect to sell out for this race as well. We were given some national recognition a few months ago by Endurance Magazine for the Outer Banks Triathlon. they nominated this event as one of the top 4 triathlons in the state of North Carolina. So we're very proud of that recognition, and we look forward to that event continuing to be a premier triathlon, not only in our state, but also in our region. The Outer Banks Marathon, half marathon this year, 10K, and 5K and fun run is Veterans Day weekend, November 7th through the 9th. We always have it on that weekend, and this past year, Runner's World, in the November edition of that magazine, which is a premier running magazine, featured a 3-page spread on the Outer Banks Marathon. We're very proud of that. And then in December of this past year, Coastal Living magazine chose the Outer Banks Marathon as one of the top 6 coastal marathons in the United States. And we were honored along with Honolulu, Big Sur in California, Mount Desert in Maine, Kiowa in South Carolina, and I believe another event in Florida and maybe Texas. So we were in some very, very good company. And I just have to say, we realize that it's because of the support of our community, our towns, our government agencies, and our volunteers that we are able to grow to this point and to be as successful as we have been. And we just can't thank you enough for what you do for us and what you have done for us since the very beginning, the very first marathon in 2006. Now we want to show you a little bit from the events of 2013. This photo was actually sent to us by some of our participants. This is a mile marker that was sponsored by the North Carolina Aquarium, and part of what we try to do is make our events fun for all of their participants. And they were having so much fun that they took this photo, put it on Facebook, and sent it to us. All of our events have a child-friendly, family-friendly component except for the triathlons. So we have fun runs and events for all ages and all abilities, and we want to encourage people to have fun together as families and as groups and to start making those healthy choices young in life. We also encourage participants to bring their friends and their family and make it a destination and stay for a while. And here we see a group of ladies that certainly have done that. The large number of people that we bring, you can see this is the finish line of 2013 Flying Pirate last year. And there are thousands of people that come to these events and participate. We, during the marathon, partnered this past year with an Army battalion in Afghanistan. They did a shadow race for our half marathon. You can see them wearing our shirts, our medals, our caps, and even though they can't be here with us, we encourage them to participate if they like. And we have done this in the past, but we just wanted to let you know that we're doing this, that we are encouraging our military and thanking them for their service and sponsoring these events for them. We also encourage handicap runners. We have a wheelchair-friendly division. We have wheelchair participants every year in our half marathon. And this is a blind marathoner that started here in your town, in Kitty Hawk, and finished in downtown Manteo. So we have had blind runners in the past. He's here with his pacer. And we encourage anybody and everybody that would like to participate, if they're able, to please do so. And we don't just have running events, we have multi-sport events, and we just want people to know that it's about people that enjoy doing all kinds of things. And now Dennis is going to talk to you about the economic impact that these events brought to the county in 2000.
Thanks, Linda. Hello, everyone. As Linda stated, all of our events are held in the shoulder season when we could use the extra income the most. In 2013, we're happy to say that we brought in an estimated $6.7 million to Dare County. This is based on our 9,700 participants and their guests, which totaled approximately 30,000 visitors to the Outer Banks this year. When everybody registers, they have to fill out some survey data so we get a feel for where they're coming from, how many nights they're staying, and who they're bringing with them. In 2013, we had 10 different countries represented throughout our 4 events. Those countries included, change my page here, South Africa, Italy, Australia, Japan, Great Britain, Ireland, and of course Kenya and Ethiopia. We also had 14 states represented last year. Every state was represented except for Alaska and Wyoming, so we really reached out and got someone from pretty much everywhere. In 2013, our events were comprised mostly of female athletes. 58% of our participants were female, and the average age was 38 to 43. And based on that survey data, we had an average of 2 nights stay and 2 guests per participant. And in 2013, we can proudly say that we helped book 4,273 hotel and bed and breakfast rooms, as well as over 1,500 rental cottages. Looking specifically at Kitty Hawk, we can be confident in saying that we brought in $1.2 million to Kitty Hawk alone. Approximately 1,807 participants and their guests said that they were staying in this area for 5,400 visitors at a daily per diem of $75, bringing in approximately $813,000 to the local shops and restaurants. Added with the 1,614 room nights and 318 cottages in Kitty Hawk alone, we can go with another $400,000 in accommodations, bringing us back to that $1.2 million in Kitty Hawk. Since the inception of the marathon 8 years ago, we can happily say that we have brought in $38.5 million in local economic impact from the Outer Banks sporting events. And as many of you know, and for those of you who don't, Outer Banks Sporting Events is a nonprofit. We donate 100% of our gross proceeds, net proceeds, net proceeds to the Dare Education Foundation, which helps support the Dare County school system, as well as the Outer Banks Relief Foundation, helping those in need in Dare County. Last year, or all told, both of those organizations have donated over $700,000 or an additional $1.4 million back to the local community for those in need and our schools. And as Linda said, that we also support Healthy Kids initiatives. We have children's fun runs and family-friendly activities at 3 of our events, including, and if any of you at First Flight have ever seen the Saturday event in November, it's a huge carnival and it's just a blast. So that was actually my first event here as race director. Our newest event, Storm the Beach, as she said, is our Adventure Fun Run. This year it's going to be held in the beaches in Nags Head. Last year we had approximately 622 registrations, which was a 95% increase from the previous year. The event consists of a 5-mile, 3-mile, and 0.17-mile family fun run. It is a team-oriented event, and we feel it meets a market demand for a new and diverse activity beyond simply a running event, a 5K or a half marathon. Some of the pictures to follow are just to give you an idea if many of you have never seen Storm the Beach or not sure what it's about. Right here we show our beach theme, utilizing things such as inner tubes to create an agility course. Again, fun and exciting way to enjoy the beach. A variety of challenges and trying to utilize more of the natural landscapes such as driftwood and the sand as an obstacle. Fun for all ages. As you can see, this little guy having a good time running through or crawling through the sand, all dressed up in his pirate garb. And if you look in the upper right corner, you'll see his father dressed to suit following him going through this event. So again, trying to get that family fun and experience on the beach. And then, of course, anyone can do it. A little help from your friends, trying to really focus on that team building, exciting time on the beach. The team event is based on the entire team finishing together. So your star athlete and your weakest link could work together and finish the event as a team, building memories while enjoying their time in the Outer Banks. And then, of course, we have obstacles that are a little bit more challenging for those that want another push beyond simply running 5 miles up and down the beach. And everyone's favorite obstacle is a series of walls, this being the largest of all of the walls. The other ones are approximately 4 feet tall. For whatever reason, the people talk about the walls. Some of the types of challenges that we've seen in 2013 moving into 2014. As I said before, our events are predominantly female, except for the triathlon, which is actually 60% male. It's the only event that is male dominant out of all 4 of our events. The triathlon continues to grow and sell out. We've sold out the last 2 years, and 2014 we look to do the same, as we're already at a 35% sellout rate. So we're doing fantastic there. Our shorter event distances continue to grow and sell out, as we see with the 2014 First Flight 5K, which has already sold out, which sold out in record time this year. And the longer events, when the slide was made, continue to plateau. Recent data shows that there was a 6% increase in marathon participation in 2013, which is very encouraging for us as we try to continue to grow our events in the future. And as we said, the Storm the Beach has shown strong growth in 2013, and the numbers tend to be the same, our initial registration numbers for 2014. Some of the challenges that we see as our events continue to grow, parking and finding places for our participants during Expo is a continual challenge for us, but something that we're working with the towns with. And our competition, the Rock and Roll Raleigh is a new event this year, which is a regional event. And the gist of our competition is, as more races continue to grow in the area, it pushes us to continually find new and different ways to retain our past participants and reach out to new ones to bring to the area. Ideas or means of social media and other forms of customer service is our primary focus right now. And finally, as we continue to grow, the dependence on volunteers, community groups, such as high school groups and local service organizations, to help continue to make our events the most successful they can be. One of the most encouraging things, just as a side note, one of the most encouraging things that I've seen since I've come here in from the marathon is that our participants continually rave on how amazing the community and our volunteer support has been. That's the reason why they come back, because they feel welcome and they feel supported the entire time they're here. So, thank you. And back to Ms. Linda. Closing comments.
Mayor Perry and members of the council, as a token of our appreciation for your support in 2013, we know that the Storm the Beach course actually ran into part of Kitty Hawk last year, and we know that you were very supportive of that and all of the things that we did as we start in your town for 2 of our major races, and we run through your town, and you guys have always just been so positive and so favorable, and that's part of the reason why our participants continue to just give us glowing remarks in their survey about this community and the support that this community gives to them along the course. We would like to give you several art prints from the 2013 Outer Banks Marathon. We hope that you will hang them with pride, and we thank you very much for all that you have done for us and all that you continue to do for us as a town and as individuals, volunteers, and sponsors. Thank you very much. We know that it's because of you that these events are as successful as they are. Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. You're right, it brings a lot of economic benefit to the town in a shoulder season. That's what it's designed to do, and having been on the Tourist Bureau, I know that it does bring a lot of extra people and a lot of extra income. Thank you very much.
Good job, y'all.
Thank you.
And now we have Miss Janice Collins.
I'm Jan Collins, and I'm president of Kitty Hawk Landing Association, which is located back off this road. And I'm here tonight to make you aware of our earnest need to increase and our resources in firefighting at the landing. Last February, I'll pass out these pictures, I don't have any for you guys. John's obviously. Last February, Don and Carol Davis's house was destroyed by fire in the landing. It was after witnessing this catastrophe that we became aware of the immense value of water in fighting a fire. Our firefighters had lots of hose and pumping equipment. However, when an additional hose was connected to an additional hydrant and turned on, the in-use aerial sprayer from the latter was dramatically reduced. Their ability to augment the fight with hoses to additional hydrants was self-defeating as they were drawing from the same non-loop 6-inch water line. We are all dead-end streets back on the landing, so our service is a 6-inch water pipe that comes off and it supplies the hydrants. However, when we need excess water for a fire, we don't have the pressure needed to put out a fire of this magnitude. We were very much pleased that the wind that day was down so that it would not, affect the homes that were nearby it. Ironically, we are surrounded by canals full of water. Those of us witnessing this realized this was a wake-up call. After months of research and many discussions with Chief Spivey and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, it was found that we could supplement our firefighting supply by using dry hydrants. These hydrants are capped pipes and are built with an 8-inch underground pipe running into the canals. Our fire department pumpers could connect rapidly to the street side connection and deploy substantially more water lines toward the fire. The costs for similar installations range from $3,500 to $9,500 for each installed dry hydrant. Dave Hilton, our vice president of the association, worked diligently in cooperation with Chief Spivey to assemble the specifications and develop 9 appropriate sites. I have met with the association attorney to discuss the easements and the liabilities. Another option would be to bring in another water line to the landing junction. There's another 6-inch line that goes to Roger Street by the cemetery. If we brought that line into the beginning of Ivy, we could then bring in another supply and we could run that down Pineway and tunnel under the canal and loop it. If we were to loop our lines back there, we would increase the water supply. However, that's a much costlier idea, but it is one that would also help. This would increase the water volume and maintain pressure levels. There would be no dead-end legs. We are now ready to discuss the options and look for resources. I met with Joe Hurd and John Stockton and Chief Spivey last Wednesday, and I am meeting with Bobby Oden and Kim Flatt from Dare County on Friday morning at 10 o'clock. We're making you aware of our efforts on this project tonight to solicit your support, and technical and financial, to undertake this effort. You should also know that in addition to this effort, we have undertaken steps to participate in the North Carolina Forestry Service Firewise program. Part of researching grant money, we were approached by the U.S. Forest Department that they thought they would have about $8,000 in a grant program if we became a Firewise community. They have Firewise communities in Currituck County, but none here in Dare County. And I met with Rob Stockton, and this Wednesday, Rob and Gary Wood from the U.S. Forest Department are coming out to do an assessment of the landing. We make up of 194 families back there. And It will be a 7-point process, but we're going to begin it, and we're going to have a picnic in May, and the fire and the forestry department will come out, and they'll speak to everybody on this program. And we're going to try to get the homes to cooperate, the people, by putting their numbers on their mailboxes for visibility, and also to look at the vegetation growth and things around the home that would reduce the flammable material. And of course, if we accomplish this, we could become one of the first in Dare County for a fire-wise community. We have a package, and John Stockton and Joe Hurd got it last week, that is extensive. It shows the above-ground installations, it shows the hydrant and a statement of work. So we have put together exactly what we need to build these dry hydrants. And we discussed the difference between 3,500 and 9,200. They have one at Palace Point, and the cost by RPC was 9,200. They went in, they did it all. Now, the materials are almost less than $3,000. And so our thoughts are, if we can get the town and the county to help us put this in, we can get the labor, and we could do it as a project. If the town or the county has some equipment to go in to do a backhoe, to dig the trenches, we have certainly enough people that can put pipe together and help do a project to meet the end cause of putting in these 9 dry hydrants that we so desperately need. And in today's paper, just along that same line, they have the foundation stones from the lighthouse, the Hatteras Lighthouse, and they've been sitting in the sand down there, and they've been waiting for somebody to raise money to help move them. And finally they decided that the Park Authority has the equipment, and they're going to move the stones. So it's much like us guys, you know, if we have the equipment, we can do it. And maybe we could do a team effort on the same.
Thank you. That's a lot to digest, and I'm not sure how much the town can participate, but we'll look at your package and go from there. And but there is one thing, when it came to my attention that this dry hydrant issue had come up, I went out and spoke to the Chief Spivey to kind of educate myself on what the system is out there and that sort of thing. And to that end, I'm going to ask Chief Spivey to come up to the mic, because I've got some questions for him, and I want them on the record so we can get the answer to that. And I'm educating the rest of council as I ask these questions, and then the whole package can go from there. All right? Chief, basically these are things that I kind of spoke to you about and kind of learned about, but I'm going to ask them so that we can put them on the record and educate the rest of the council, because this apparently is an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Question number 1, Kitty Hawk Landing is serviced by one of the best loop water systems in Kitty Hawk. Is that correct?
That is correct, counting the water line that going through Kitty Hawk Woods.
Okay, so briefly, how are the water lines coming to Kitty Hawk Landing? They're coming through the woods and the Kitty Hawk Road?
Yes, sir. That is
Okay.
correct.
And they terminate where in that loop?
The one that comes through Kitty Hawk Woods terminates at Rogers Street and West Kitty Hawk Road, right at the corner of the cemetery, is where that line terminates. Ties back in, I should
All right.
say.
This loop system provides both a secondary source of firefighting water should the primary line fail, and a constant volume within the capacity or capability of the water to flow within the pipe to the fire equipment. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, sir. I would say that is correct.
All right. Was water supply an issue in the Hyde's Fire referenced in the presentation?
Tonight in her presentation?
Yes.
She said water flow is insufficient for firefighting. Yes, sir.
All right. If not, was the main issue a delay in the homeowner calling for help or fire department response?
That I'm not sure. There was a delay. I'm not sure how long that delay was.
In calling for help?
Yes, sir.
All right. And anytime there's a delay of that nature, then the setup, the time it takes to respond, and any water issues make it harder.
Anytime a free burning fire is left to burn, it doubles in size for every minute. that it's left.
All right.
Yes.
If you find a need for additional water at any location in Kitty Hawk, can you call upon the Dare County Water System to raise overall water pressure during the event in order to add capacity to your fire equipment?
Yes, sir, and we do that on every fire.
And they're pretty good about coming online?
They come online and turn the pumps on to increase pressure.
All right.
That is correct.
Please explain as briefly as you can what the municipal requirement is for water supply, and does the county meet the state standard?
I'm not educated enough to tell you what the standard is, but I do know that Dare County does meet the North Carolina state standard on the water system. The system is designed for a resident or a domestic use. Anything that's left over is what's used for fire protection.
All right, so they don't design for fire protection. It's all for consumption-based, use by residents or business, whatever.
Mostly so, yes, sir.
All right. If the town installs an additional fire hydrant water system beyond what the county has installed, is it likely other sections of town, not as well covered as Kitty Hawk Landing, would expect upgrading with loop systems or increased water lines? I'm thinking in particular the issue we had over in Worthington Lane. If the town does one, would not another have the same issue?
I would expect the other communities would want to increase, yes, sir.
So it's more than just one community, one part of our community?
Yes, sir.
Would accommodating such requests for upgrade be costly beyond a limited source of revenue for this town, if you were doing them all that might request it?
You talking about doing loop systems?
Yeah.
Without question, yes, sir.
All right. Should dry hydrant installation at Kitty Hawk Landing be considered a high priority?
I would consider it to be a priority if that community wanted to take it on. It would certainly improve the available water that they have for fire protection.
All right. And that's my last question. Steve, one for you. If they wanted to take it on and fund it through a homeowners association or a special assessment, is that something that's possible?
It is. They're going to have easements to put everything in, but they could do that.
Okay. And if they asked the town for special assessment for that part of the community to do that, is that something we could do?
You certainly have the ability to do that.
Okay. All right. So we've explored the options and we have some information. Does anyone else have any questions?
I just have one that's a follow-up to the one that you asked about, if you needed additional water. Did the Dare County Water System raise overall water pressure during the event to add capacity to your equipment? They did during that fire, and it was not enough. Is that
That is correct.
correct?
It was not enough. And they do, we request every time we have a working fire, regardless of where it's at in town.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't enough because of how involved the fire was at that point, or would it not have been enough just because of the nature of the equipment and the usage of the water?
Well, it's the nature of the fire, it's the size of the fire, is what we're trying to do. We have to have sufficient water to consume the BTUs that the fire is at.
I guess the reason behind my question is I remember a fire that took place in Seascape, and I could see it burning from my front deck. It was at night, and the new ladder truck, it was new at that time, was there, and it did not appear that there was a lot of water coming out of that piece of equipment. And so I guess the real question is the water pressure sufficient to satisfy the requirement of a ladder truck, you know, getting it way up top there and coming down on any fire? Have you had any problems with that?
Yes. As a general rule, there's not enough water to supply that master stream in Kitty Hawk. That is correct.
All of Kitty Hawk?
All of
All
Kitty
of
Hawk.
Kitty Hawk.
yes.
That's what I was wanting
Okay.
to know. Okay. Greg, you had a question?
Just for the record, were you using the same truck on this occasion, the presentation that was made tonight? Which truck were you using?
Yes, sir. We were using, no, the truck that she is referring to, I think you're talking about the one that was on the cul-de-sac of Lakeside?
Yeah,
Would
yeah,
that be
it
correct?
was-
Yeah,
it
that
was
would have
up in
been
the
the color
hills.
squirt that we were using. There, we had 1,000 GPM nozzle on that. There was not enough water. Again, that's on a dead end, on the end of a cul-de-sac. Almost the same situation. The lighter that we used on Mr. Davis's house was our newer lighter. That's a 1,200 GPM nozzle on that. And again, it's like, she stated, we had to pick and choose whether we're gonna use that aerial device or use the hand lines on that fire. But like I say, that fire had a pretty good head start when we got there, and there was really, nothing else we could do. We did have the opportunity to use all available water that we had on that structure. The exposures on that house were not a problem, okay? The night that you're talking about, we did have an exposure problem with the wind blowing sparks on a flat top house down below the hill of that house that was on fire. And again, what we're trying to do is confine the fire where we find it. And that's what every fire department's trying to do.
So I guess what you're saying, Chief, is this isn't an issue that's isolated to Kitty Hawk Landing. This is an issue that's all over.
It
Kitty Hawk.
is, and the system belongs to the county. And, you know, like I said, they have put 6-inch lines in, and it does meet the state standard, and it generally meets all your domestic needs.
My next question, and I know you're not in Philadelphia Hills or Southern Shores, but is it the same issue in those towns too?
Southern Shores, I know, has a excellent loop system. They generally do not have the water problems that we do in Kitty Hawk. Nags Head has made some improvements in their system by adding a water tank down south and adding a fire station there. But water tank itself has increased the water pressure and available water inside Nags Head that they used to have. We had a better loop system there, but it was not as elaborate as what KDH had when I was there back in the mid-'80s.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Moving on from there.
Wow.
Sure.
We know we have a problem. We have dead-end streets. We don't have enough water in a situation. We didn't lose any lives this time. This is something that's not going to go away. We've spent a year researching it. We have a way to fix it. We have people who are willing to help in any way possible. We can get it done for a lot less money than running new lines out there. I don't know how you can know that there is a wrong and not look at it and determine a way that we can remedy it. And not only that, but this is a wake-up call to all the other communities that might be at the same problem that we are. You don't want to not shuffle this under someplace without looking at, okay, Kitty Hawk Landing, and is there another place on Worthington that have problems, and how can we fix it? If Nags Head is looking at their problem and putting in supplement water areas, we need to do that. And I'm going to talk to the county on Friday and tell them, hey, this is a wake-up call. With the money that we have for public utilities, and these are tax-paying people, we need to know that we have water when we have a devastating fire. Like I said, we didn't have a windy day that day, but if the wind were blowing, those two houses next door with the amount of water that we had, and I was there and I watched it all and I took those pictures, those houses would have been gone too.
Okay, I understand. We do understand that there's a problem, and that's what I was trying to get to with the rest of council, to make sure we're all educated on what you're asking for, if there are any possibilities to accomplish what you want. And we'll look at it from that point of view. But now we're all better educated on the whole subject. And that,
Well, it's like getting more information
yeah,
and just keep pulling at it until we come to a resolution.
okay. Thank you. All right. Moving on. This has been an interesting night. Next is public comment. Lynn, is there anyone signed up for public comment?
No.
Does anyone wish to speak at this portion? Come up to the microphone, state your name, please.
Hi, my name is David Hunt. I'm a resident and business owner here in Kitty Hawk. As most of you know, I do own the Romance Store. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary, and I wanted to thank a couple of people in particular, Councilwoman Klutz and Mayor Perry. When I first opened, there were some obstacles to overcome, and especially Mr. Hurd was very helpful. We just signed another 36-month lease, so we plan on being here for a while. And I also want to announce that we're opening another business next to it. It's going to be Outer Banks Hilarious T-shirts. We'll be doing some novelty T-shirts and short-run T-shirts for businesses and that type of thing. And I hope I've been a contributing member to the society and to the town. And again, I want to thank everybody for all their help, and hope that your worst fears were not realized.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Let the record show no one else came forward. All right. Next, we have a consent agenda. Do you hear a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, approved. None removed. Public hearings. All right, first public hearing we have is text amendment. It's for creating an exemption from the 35-foot maximum heights requirement. Do you hear a motion to go into public hearing?
Move to go into public hearing.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are now in public hearing. Joe, would you brief us on what we're dealing with?
Thank you, Mayor Perry, members of council, members of the public in attendance. The first item we have under the public hearing is a request submitted for a text amendment to add a new subsection 42-7C, which would create an exemption from the 35-foot maximum height requirement for roof access structures in all beach commercial zoning districts, subject to certain conditions that we'll discuss in a minute. I figured first, before we go any further, particularly for the people who might be here this evening, hearing this for the first time, just want to take a moment to explain what it is we're talking about when we use that term, roof access structure. So I've got some photographs up here. What we're talking about is a structure that would cover a stairwell coming up through a roof. If you have an internal stairwell, as that comes through the roof so that people can go up and access the roof, you need a structure over it to basically make it a weather-tight situation. So I've just had a few examples here of what that can look like. And then we also have, we did find one local example nearby here at Metro Rental down there off of Collington Road, just behind the Kangaroo Station. Just have a quick little series of photos. This structure we're talking about is this up here at the top. And just taken from a few different angles, just so you can get a feel for the visual impact that this might have from the ground. And then this is taken from a little farther away, as you can see right there. The applicant's original proposal, when we came in, was to change the standards in our beach commercial BC1 district, and it was a relatively simple proposal. The applicant had proposed to add roof access structures to a list of structures that were exempt from the height standards that the town has, the maximum height standards in that BC1 district. We do have exemptions for things like chimneys, flagpoles, communication masts, aerials, and this would just be another exemption. We also have an exemption for small, for up to 4 feet for architectural features like a cupola or a widow's walk or something like that. So anyway, that was the proposal. As the planning board over a 2-month period took a look at that proposal, they identified that there were a number of other things that a proposal like that needed to address. They didn't like that it was that open-ended. And so there were discussions, and the board members and applicant agreed after those discussions that there were some additional concerns. And so this proposal has changed as a result of those meetings, and it now includes a variety of other things. First of all, we added a definition for roof access structures. That definition was done in an attempt to, just to nail down what that is so that no one could go in after the fact and try to build a large sunroom and say this is a roof access structure. So the board took some care in crafting some wording to help define what this is intended to be. And then the board also went and looked at a number of potential conditions that are part of the proposal before the council this evening. First of those is that the exclusion shall be limited to a maximum of 1 roof access structure per building. That means if we're looking at a situation, let's say, just pretend the Dune Shops, so, any shopping center was at a higher level where it would, one of these structures would exceed the maximum. They wouldn't be able to put one of these over every business in the shopping center. It would be limited to 1 location where that access could occur. Secondly, a roof access structure can be no taller than 8 feet in height, measured from the roof to the highest point of the structure. This was an attempt, again, to limit, to narrow how tall something could be so somebody didn't try to do something extreme. And 8 feet was considered large enough. We did have an architect present at actually we had 2 if we want to count our chair, Oscar Northern. And between them, it noted that 8 foot would be plenty sufficient for this type of structure. Third one, the maximum size of the roof access structure is 48 square feet. Again, what the board was seeking to do with that is create something large enough to accommodate a typical structure, but not allow it to be large enough to really be used for any other functional purpose. And finally, the board entered into some discussion about the fact that there would be requirements if you're allowing people up on a roof. There are building code requirements for railings. So what the board noted and has added as a recommended 4th condition is that the railings required to enclose a rooftop area are also excluded from the maximum height limitations. So those railings are required to be at least 4 feet in height. So they just noted that they would be permanently attached, so they would be considered part of the structure, and just noted that that would need exemption as well.
Question?
Yes, sir.
On that very issue, they have to be a minimum of 42 inches high, but if I'm reading this correctly, they could be any height, 8+ feet or whatever, that the applicant wanted to put them up there. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The way that's written?
Yeah, and the way the code is.
So he could have an 8-foot access structure and an 8 or 9-foot fence for whatever reason he might want.
The way that it's currently worded, that's correct.
And that railing could go around the entire perimeter of the building rooftop.
It could. It would encircle whatever the defined area, the defined rooftop area is, where people would be allowed to go. Conceivably, it could be that large.
And who decides what's that definition? He decides the whole roof or a part of it, and then you accept that? How does that work?
Depends on the circumstance. Generally, there's no limitation on that. It would be a combination of the engineering of the roof itself. A roof has to be engineered to support people. So if there's certain areas of the roof that where that could occur and not occur, that would define it. The applicant could also self-impose a limit, and there are reasons for that that tie back to the fire code and requirements that you would have related to that as far as the occupancy, how many people could be up there at one time. So it could be the applicant choosing to do that. There could be other reasons, technical reasons why it would be limited.
All right, go ahead.
But otherwise, it could be the whole thing.
All right, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I just want to clarify this in my mind, too. So the 48 square foot roof access structure, which can be only, 8 feet high or less, could result in a whole new structure being built on the roof that could have a height higher than that roof access structure? Is that what we're saying here?
Railing.
What we're saying is
The
that
railing.
Just the railing.
Just the
Yeah.
railing.
The railing was, the way it's worded, the railing was excluded from height. So it has to be a minimum 42 inches high, but it could be much, much higher than that because there's no limit on that. And depending upon what is being asked for and would be proposed on the roof, it could be the entire perimeter of that roof at whatever height is decided upon. So, 5 foot, whatever.
Yeah.
For safety, 6 foot, you
Yeah,
can put a
that-
6-foot fence up there.
Yeah.
That's all, and that's the reason I was asking, there's no limitation.
But what you're saying is the wording on this doesn't
Limit that.
limit it at all.
Exactly.
But it also, according to this, it doesn't, the North Carolina Fire Code or the building code doesn't regulate the maximum size of the area.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Sure. We haven't got there yet. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. All right, proceed, please.
That's fine. So those are the 4 conditions the board recommended. I did also want to point out that during their discussion, the board did make a point of changing. The original proposal limited the applicability of the text amendment to just the BC1 district. The board, after consideration and looking at it, determined that, well, if we're going to allow it in BC1, it makes sense that it should also be allowed in BC2, BC3 districts. So they did broaden the recommendation that you have before you to include all of the beach commercial districts. The applicant in this case, who is present, Tim Cafferty, has expressed an interest in installing a roof access structure to cover the entrance to an internal stairwell that would provide access to the roof of the 3-story building where Outer Banks Blue Realty is located at 3732 North Croatan Highway. You'll recall the building was built as Bank of Commonwealth. This building, when it was constructed, is at the absolute maximum height of 35 feet. So any structure that increases the height of it would bring that building out of compliance. So that's the rationale for Mr. Cafferty's proposal, what he's seeking. He can certainly speak to his some more specific and detailed reasons for his reason for the request. We do have some information, some of which we just touched on as far as some of the code requirements and things that are applicable to this. I won't go over those in detail at the moment, but can certainly touch on any of those as needed. So I'll just close by mentioning that the Planning Board at their meeting on February 13th voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed text amendment to add a definition for roof access structures, which would create an exemption from the maximum height requirements for those structures, subject to the conditions that I mentioned earlier. And that's all I have for you on this.
All right, we may call you back here in just a minute. Tim, this is your proposal. Would you like to give us some edification, please?
So thank you. I am Tim Cafferty, or as my children now call me, the applicant. For the last few months. So it was, as Mr. Hurd indicated, a simple request. As you know, I did purchase the building known as the Bank of Commonwealth, owned by Outer Banks LLC, Outer Banks Blue LLC, which is Outer Banks Blue Realty Services. And you know, I bought all that comes with it. There was certainly a history there, and a bit of a stigma, quite frankly. And I've gone to a lot of lengths to try to be a good citizen, and actually just completed a renovation of the property, which I think increases the, just the commitment even more. As it relates to this particular issue, there is a hatch cover at this point that gives me access to the roof. And the building now is going on 6 years old, believe it or not, from the time it was constructed. So we're starting to see some issues relative to deferred maintenance, which some of you will recognize over time. I have 10 condensing units for the HVAC system that are located on the ceiling, on the roof of the property. We have had to replace 2 of those in the last year. It is mind-bogglingly difficult to get those units up there. We literally had to have 8 men hoist them through these through the hatch cover. So it occurs to me that for maintenance, it's a necessity for me over time. But clearly, this would solve my issue and move on. It was never my intention to, create this in a vision of, some kind of a chamber mixer or something like that going on. And you foiled me, Mr. Mayor, with the 8-foot walls. You found them. Now I'm just being facetious. That was never the plan. But certainly, when you provide access to a roof, then you need to think about safety. So Joe prudently brought that to my attention. I'd certainly be willing to do whatever is necessary. It is a very large structure. Now with the renovations, I'm over 17,000 square feet of heated area in the building, and so the roof area is quite large. But I'd be amenable to whatever restrictions you feel is appropriate. Glad to answer any questions I can.
Didn't I read that some sort of gathering was what was intended up there? Did I not read that?
Well, I'd certainly like to provide, there's no nefarious plot about gatherings or what have you. If I have access to the roof, I certainly would like to use that.
Okay.
Whether it be, an employee having a lunch up there to enjoy the view, it is spectacular. That would certainly be something I could see. Don't see anything relative to any large gatherings by any means. I couldn't see more than a couple of people being up there at any given time.
Well, it certainly is a big building, and
Yes, sir.
it takes up every square inch of usable by code space, both in size and height. I don't have any questions of you.
I have
Anyone
some
else?
for Joe.
No question? All right. Anyone else have comment on this? This is still open public hearing. Anyone want to comment? No one? Yes.
As you know, my business is located directly across the street from the building. I'd like to compliment him on changes he has done. It was vacant for a long time, and I have absolutely no objection to having a little piece up on top of that building. I don't think that would be an eyesore at all. I would be in favor of that.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, anyone have any questions of Joe before I close the hearing?
Yes, I do.
Joe?
Okay, Joe, it seems to me by permitting the gathering / roof access as well as the railing, all to be exempt from the height code, we're going to open up a irreversible situation. My example being all permitted uses that are in all these zones that might seem permittable in an enclosed situation in that building, if they meet all the codes with fire, parking, and all that, they will be able to operate that form of a business on top of all roofs in the town commercial zone, BC zones, correct? Is that?
So, subject to site
Yeah.
plan review by,
Yes.
if it's an expansion of space, the council could review that. But if the applicant, if it's a permitted use and the applicant meets all the standards, if they've got enough parking, if the septic will accommodate the additional space, then, the council really has limited option. You can't really deny it, if it meets all the standards. So I guess my answer to that would be yes, it would permit any allowed use to occur in that area.
As well as conditional uses, provided that they meet the conditions.
That's correct.
And all this taking place as a permitted use on all roofs in BC districts.
Yeah, as long as it complies with the applicable development standards, that's correct. Those things could potentially occur on any roof.
That's a lot of potentials. That's all.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to say, I know, I think going on the same road that Jeff's going, I'm afraid if we allow one thing, we're going to have problems in the future from denying something that we don't really want. Knowing Mr. Cafferty like I do, I know it's going to be a well-built, a very attractive addition that he's planning, but I'm just afraid if we start something, we're going to have problems stopping in the future. That's all I've got to say.
All right, we'll get into that discussion in a minute. Does anyone have any more questions of the applicant or Joe? All right, then I'll call for us to go back into regular hearing. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're back in regular session, taking up this text amendment. Any discussion among council? I have some. And Tim, I'm going to direct this at you. When I first came on council, we had some issues, not unlike this, but a little bit different. And I actually sat down because I felt like I needed more knowledge. And I went through 25 years at that time of minutes for Kitty Hawk. And in fact, that, believe it or not, interested me enough that the subject matter carried me another 5 years into the county records, which were very hard to find, I might add. The most divisive thing I found in that research was height. Back when the county owned this place and they were giving it away to developers or whatever, height was at 25 feet, but we had flat top roofs and things of that nature, trailers on the beach in 25-foot wide lots. The issue of raising the height came up, and 35-foot was settled on to years and years ago, and it was a very contentious affair. Even today, Joe goes out or has a building inspector go out when a new building is being constructed, residential or otherwise, because we've had people look at the building as it's being constructed and said, that looks like more than 35 feet. So we require a survey before they finish the roof so that we can assure the person that's complaining and the person that's building it, they don't have to lop it off, like R.A. Hoy had to do. That building had to be lopped off to meet the 35-foot height. So it's a very divisive issue in the town. And I, for one, am not satisfied that the people will allow us to go much higher than we are right now. When they decide that we can do that, I'm on board. I'll go there. But we're not there yet. And with the potential, that roof is built at exactly 35 feet. Anything added on top of that is going to cause that issue to be raised again. And I'm not willing to go there because you could build a railing, and that railing could be solid. It doesn't have to be an open railing. It could be any height. And that structure you put up there is going to be seen and commented on to and cause issues within the town. So I'm not going to vote for that based on the issues. And that point you made is an excellent point, where if we did this, it opens up the whole of every commercial in the whole town. And that's a potential I don't see we can justify, not at this time.
I can certainly understand that there is a need to get up and to get equipment up into an area.
Correct.
But by doing this, you know, the door's been opened up to way more than just accessing for mechanical.
All right. So are we ready to make a motion? Do I hear a motion one way or the other?
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I move to deny the proposed text amendment adding a definition for roof access structures in a new subsection 42-7, subsection C to the Kitty Hawk Town Code, creating an exemption from the 35-foot maximum height requirement for roof access structures in all beach commercial zoning districts.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Sorry, Tim. You did go to a lot of trouble planning the Board of Adjustment as well as this. I will say this. The issue of flood height and being able to raise a building higher based upon flood base is one that we've tackled before, and the citizens weren't ready for then. But at some point, that's got to be addressed. I know that, and I think the rest of us do. So the citizens of Kitty Hawk have to tell us that they're ready to look at something a little bit higher and maybe base it on base flood or something of that nature. And if they tell us that, we'll respond to that. I'm certain of that. All right? All right, what do we got next? Text amendment. This is an application for adding a subsection vehicle rentals. And I'll call for us to go into public hearing.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're now in public hearing. Joe, would you bring us up to date, please?
Thank you again, Mayor Perry. Second item we have, as you mentioned, is also a text amendment. This amendment proposes to add a subsection 42-250C34 that would allow vehicle rentals as a conditionally permitted use in the Beach Commercial BC1 zoning district. Once again, subject to certain conditions as outlined in the staff report that I'll cover. Presently, vehicle rental operations are not specifically listed as a permitted use in that BC1 district. The applicant is proposing, as mentioned, to add as a conditional use subject to the following three conditions. First, that all rental vehicles must be properly parked within designated parking areas on the site per an approved site plan. The intent of that is that someone renting vehicles doesn't just go out and park them out in the yard in front of the parking lot along the highway or something like that. They have to be in approved designated parking spaces. Second condition, rental vehicle repair and/or maintenance shall not be performed on site unless as part of a vehicle repair operation that has also been approved for the site. Intent of that's hopefully self-explanatory, in that we didn't want these to evolve into something larger than just vehicle rental. Third item, not more than 7 rental and/or customer vehicles may be simultaneously parked on the site. So that is intent to limit the scope, limit the size of this type of business. In reviewing this application, again, this was presented by an applicant who is also with us this evening. The planning board at its meeting on February the 13th voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed text amendment allowing vehicle rentals subject to the conditions I just stated. And I'd be glad to answer anything else in more detail, but that's all I have for you this evening, Mayor.
All right, council, any questions of Joe?
Yes, I have one. Joe, even though only 7 vehicles are asked to be permitted on this site, it is an unknown number of vehicles that can be involved in this rental business. Is that correct?
That's correct. Conceivably, someone could maintain a large fleet of rental vehicles located off, maybe garage somewhere in Currituck, but only there would be no more than 7 customer or rental vehicles at the site at one time.
But it could be a steady rotation, 7 as fast as you can get them in and out.
That's
a
correct.
Steady rotation.
That's
We're not talking about 7 leaving and 7. This could be a steady rotation of as much as 150, if they had that many. There is no number. There is no number on
That's
this.
correct. There's no maximum for the business as a whole, just what is on the site at any one time.
Correct. Okay. I don't have any more questions.
One of the things that just occurred to me when I saw this is I just don't understand why a conditional use is needed for a vehicle rental business. In looking at the code the way it's currently written, under retail, there's a there is a automotive parts, I think it is, automotive parts retail that specifies that it's automated parts, comma, not to include vehicle repair or service. And under the service type businesses that are available for the BC1 district, it would appear to me that we could actually satisfy all of the conditions that are in this, with the exception of the total number of vehicles, but all of the conditions which are in the conditional use by just developing some parking standards that would satisfy the requirement for the vehicles being in their spaces. A vehicle rental business, I really don't think it has the kind of characteristics that require all of this additional scrutiny. And I understand that the applicant wants to address things that would just support the particular business that he wants to put at the site. I did go over there, and I could see that there were 7 parking places along the north corner. I guess that's the north corner of the site, and there's the business that is currently closed, and the fruit stand, the vegetable and fruit stand, and I couldn't really see where the kiosk was being, placed. But to basically put it into the code as a conditional use to satisfy like one business's requirements, I just feel like if there's nothing wrong with having a vehicle rental business in the town, having it as a permitted use with the standards in place that would in effect limit the size of the operation based on the site where it was going to be located would be a better way to do it. That's just my comment.
Okay, but before us today,
We have a
we have a
conditional use.
request to do something that is not germane to that.
Well, because it's not using the whole site.
Right. Correct.
And I think that's kind of the issue here.
Well, on that very issue, that was the same issue that we denied Beach Ready Auto rental. Would this, if we were to approve this, would that not allow him to do the same thing? What would make him different from this particular one?
If the Beach Ready Auto came about, as the council may recall, they were requesting approval for a conditional use permit to establish an auto repair business. As part of that, the applicant was proposing to have as an accessory or ancillary use to do some vehicle rental. And the council, in reviewing that application, was comfortable approving the repair business with conditions, but did not feel that the rental business was warranted at that time and denied that part of the request, figuring that there could be some other issues spun off of that. If this was approved, if the text amendment was approved as drafted by the applicant or something similar as a conditional use, then the owner of Beach Ready Auto could come back in and request a conditional use permit for that, to add that use to his business.
And under that condition, we would be hard pressed to say no, given this new tactic.
If the applicant complied with the standards, and likely, just based on knowing my knowledge of that site, I would say it's likely that they could comply with all of the standards.
And in addition, because of the way this is proposed, any strip mall in Kitty Hawk under this commercial district could do the same thing.
potentially with one, they would have to have a presence in a unit. There are very, very few of our shopping centers that have much of any excess parking that could really accommodate anything additional above and beyond just filling those units. So it would be,
But that's,
it would be very limiting in those
that's
circumstances.
only because they're maxed out,
Correct.
not that 2 or 3 tenants could move out and then the whole thing changed. So we'd be opening up, very much like the last text amendment we were just dealing with, the potential for something throughout the town that perhaps we don't want. And you're saying...
What I'm saying is that I guess what's confusing me is that site is being looked at as like a shopping center, I guess, because there would be different uses on there. There's a gas station, there's the fruit stand, and so this would be like treating it as though it were a shopping center with, and I guess you could say that the treatment is applicable because there are 3 different actual units there. And so to use the example of the auto repair, that was in a strip mall that had individual units. So certainly an individual unit could be used to set up a rental business. I guess the point that I was making was that a car rental business per se, if it's in a location, for instance, like I guess it's Enterprise Rental that's in Kill Devil Hills, it's just a little business, it's got a little parking lot out front, and it certainly doesn't require a lot of scrutiny for the characteristics of that business. People come in, they fill out the paperwork, they take a car and go. But it's just, would we object as a council to a strip mall that had sufficient parking for a car rental business to take a unit in a strip mall? I don't see anything, I don't see a problem with that, I guess, is my issue.
All right, well, let's, does anyone, the applicant has a right to speak here, so anyone before I turn Joe loose here? All right, is the applicant present?
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm Gene Martin. I also own Kitty Hawk Car Wash. I'll answer any questions town council has. I mean, I presently have the Jeeps parked or businesses in operation at Sunny Plaza at Kill Devil Hills. I'm allowed 5 Jeeps there. There are only 5 Jeeps there. I have a total of 7 Jeeps. 2 of them are parked, off-site. I do not have the wherewithal to have 150 cars or whatever to rotate or whatever else around. As far as construction, a small kiosk would be at the northeast corner, which would basically just be big enough to house someone to sit and someone to fill out paperwork. That's basically it. I have the smallest site or the smallest office that there is in Sunny Plaza. It would make things a lot easier for me having the 2 businesses much closer together as far as cleanliness, because I wash all the vehicles. So instead of me running them back and forth or whatever else, it would be easier to have them next door. Also, having them next door, having a business that would, should be able to survive there. I mean, I don't know about how the rest of the town feels, but having that thing closed or run out of gas or whatever else, or the constant turnover that's there, is no good for anybody. So, I mean, I resurrected the car wash that was there, almost 7 years ago now. I could make take these Jeeps and move them and make, they want to hire somebody else, have somebody else working. I mean, that's basically it. The Jeeps are, 4-door Wranglers. They're nothing that's an eyesore or whatever else. There are 7 spots there, and construct a small kiosk. And that was basically the total ambitions I have with the Jeeps there. But it would make life a lot easier. And as far as other people looking into, it is a major endeavor to keep these vehicles clean. And you can ask Junior Subtle that I wash all his vehicles that he rents. And as far as, Beach Ready has moved They are gone, they are across the bridge now. He has gotten out of the Jeep business totally. He rents or take people on tours in Hummers. So as far as Rich Brown jumping in or whatever else, he is totally out of the Jeep business. I bought all his Jeeps.
Well, but the issue before us is that when we do something like this, it's not just your business, but other businesses that might want to do it, whether that would be a good thing for the town or not. So you're looking at it as your individual entity and what's necessary for you, and I understand and appreciate that. But we're having to look at it at a kind of a bigger scale for the whole commercial district that this involves, and our decision will be based on that,
Well, I
not just
understand,
that.
but I still do not see the heartache with, even if somebody in the Dune Shops wanted to, there's not enough parking there. Or in any of the other strip centers that are here. There is just not the parking or the area to, you know, to clean the vehicles.
Okay.
So, I mean, I just do not see, you know, I was able to walk into Kill Devil Hills and fill out a piece of paper and walked in and parked the Jeeps there. And I've kept with exactly the word that I gave them, with 5 Jeeps and whatever else, I've kept my word there for a year. I just want to move them to where my other businesses are in Kitty Hawk.
All right. Anyone else have a question?
No, sir.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak at this part of the public hearing? Let the record show no one else came forward. Do I hear a motion to go back into regular session?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, we're back in regular session. We've had quite a bit of comment already. Is there any further comment?
I did throw the 150 out there for a worst-case scenario, because that is what we have to look at. We can't,
Okay.
just to get that out.
All right, do I hear a motion? One way or the other?
Well, could I recommend changing that third condition from not more than 7 rental and/or customer vehicles may be simultaneously parked on the site to not more than 7 rental vehicles may be simultaneously parked on the site? And then you wouldn't have the problem with the potential for a larger operation.
Well, you need to make a motion with that in
Yeah,
it, if
yeah,
that's what
well,
you want to do.
that's what I would like to do, to,
You're asking if that would satisfy
I'm
others.
asking if that would satisfy the council, and if that would be workable for the applicant.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, anyone else? We need a motion on this. I'm
Well,
having-
I'll make
Go
the
ahead.
motion then to, let's see. I move to adopt the proposed text amendment, adding subsection 42-250C34, allowing vehicle rentals as a conditionally permitted use in the Beach Commercial District zoning district, subject to conditions as modified in the third condition, which is subparagraph C, not more than 7 rental vehicles may be simultaneously parked on the site. Council would find that the proposed text amendment is consistent with the adopted CAMA land use plan, and finds these amendments to be in the public interest by creating greater opportunities for local businesses.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'm not hearing a second.
Okay, I'm going to second it, just so we can go to a vote, but I want to make a statement first also.
Well, you can second it, and then we'll
Okay.
make the discussion.
Fine.
That's the proper way anyway.
Cool, that's good. I'll second it.
All right. You obviously have discussion?
You know, I can't vote for this the way it is. I can't. But I could vote for a enterprise coming in here and taking a freestanding building and a site plan and so forth and renting cars, like Enterprise does or whatever. But I can't do it like this because I think you're opening the door up. There's too many variables there for me.
Okay, anyone else have discussion? Jeff, you had something on the order.
Well, I kind of think that most people are going to be dropping off their vehicles on check-in, check-out. And I think you're going to have people waiting for vehicles to be dropped off. And this is going to create, I think, maybe a little bit, if it's in a strip mall, an inconvenience to some of the other tenants in the strip mall, as well as a more confusion and a safe traffic flow through their parking lot. And with so much confusion with multiple three activities taken on this one site. I agree. If it was set up more as just a rental place, I certainly wouldn't have a problem.
All right, Craig, you have anything?
I agree wholeheartedly with Irvin and Jeff.
All right.
The other issue I got going on is we denied this one time from someone else. No, he's gone. He's out of business now. We're going across the bridge. And I would not feel right okaying this and denying that less than 2 years ago.
Well, the difference was that was an ancillary use or an accessory use to the repair shop. This is being handled differently. This is a conditional use.
It's been held, yeah, it's been handled differently, but it really has the same potential in the future. And I think that's where most of you are going, and I tend to agree with that, to be perfectly honest. All right, so we have a motion to approve as put out by M. I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of that?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 1 for, 4 against.
Now, do we need to take a vote on it as it was or as it was presented?
You
No?
need to act on the original.
On the
proposal
original
now.
one? Okay.
Oh, we need to go back and,
And act on the original application.
so we're going to deny, is that what you're saying?
Well, that's up to you. You had a substitute motion.
I had a substitute because I
All
didn't
right,
see
so
the
now
other
we-
one going.
So now we need a, well, if it was 4 to 1, then it would be a denial motion. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, the motion that Emily made was denied.
Was denied.
But you still have before you the original proposal that was sent to you, so you need to do something with that.
All right, so we need another vote and.
And another motion?
Another motion. yeah.
Motion.
All right. so
Mr.
we
Mayor,
need-
I make a motion, we deny text amendment Kitty Hawk Town Code by adding subsection 42-250C, parentheses 34, allowing vehicle rentals as a conditional permitted use in Beach Commercial BC1 zoning district subject to certain conditions.
Here a second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. That was unanimous. Now, can I move on? We have a site plan review, Hurricane Mo's deck addition. Joe?
Thank you, Mayor Perry. What we have as our next item is a review of a site plan for a two-story roof deck addition at Hurricane Mo's at 120 East Kitty Hawk Road. In this case, the applicant is requesting approval of a site plan that proposes to add this deck as well as a small covered walkway that would connect to the existing restaurant. The expansion in total would add 1,152 square feet of decks, 576 square feet on each level, and approximately 60 square feet. I measured out at about 11 by 5.5 of covered walkway between the deck structure and the existing restaurant. The applicants have stated their intent to use the lower deck as a customer waiting area. However, the upper deck would be typical restaurant type of use with tables and seating and such, so eating, drinking, and all of that going on up in that area. Subject property, and I guess let me begin by doing one thing again for the people who are here in attendance, just to just to give people an idea of what we're talking about with the structure. I just wanted to show this one. We do have one set of the sort of the sketch plans for the building that an architect prepared showing the different elevations. So this is what we're talking about with a lower deck. This would be looking at from the south, from Kitty Hawk Road, looking at the structure. So you can see two levels, one lower one in this area, one upper one, stairway going up, and then a roof on top there. Total height of the building, by the way, would be somewhere 29, 30 feet in that range from ground to the peak of the roof. Subject property, 1.24 acres in size, presently zoned beach commercial. Just to present a little bit about the context of this proposal, all of the properties within the directly adjoined or directly across the street are also zoned beach commercial, BC1. However, you do have, you have Black Pelican, the post office over here to the south across Kitty Hawk Road, large commercial retail office area there, where Decor by the Shore used to be, fronting on Croatan Highway. The very tip of the property, all the way here in the newer section of property, does abut the Holiday Inn Express property. But you also have a property located here. There's actually two parcels. One that's directly to the east of the site here where we're talking about, and then a larger property here that also contains frontage on North Virginia Dare Trail that are used for residential purposes. The Smith family owns those. There are two dwellings on that property, but it is zoned commercially, so just to keep that in mind. So again, you have one smaller property here that contains nothing more. It's undeveloped presently. It just contains a dirt or gravel driveway going into the site from Kitty Hawk Road, but it also has a drive coming in from Virginia Dare Trail. The project you can see here, and it is a little bit difficult to tell, but it's bounded right here by it's the hash area. So it does not include this. That's an existing turf stone parking area that would be removed by the project. So it would only be the area that you see with the hatching on it where this proposed deck structure would go. Just quickly covering some of the more important standards that the Planning Board looked at during their review. Looking at lot coverage, this project is adding some lot coverage, but not as much as you might think. The addition, as you can see on there, is covering, the bulk of this structure is covering an area that's already covered by turf stone and asphalt parking area. So The only area that it goes over into, you've got an additional approximately 64 square feet of area. In this area adjoining the building, that's a landscaped area presently that would be covered by between the walkway and structure. However, as part of this, with the removal of the turf stone, they're actually removing 204 square feet. So the result of this project is actually a net loss of 140 square feet of coverage. So it's actually reducing the amount of lot coverage on the site. So the site would maintain compliance. It would only have 44.5% lot coverage, well below the 60% permitted for commercial districts. Mentioned on the building height, well within the 35 feet required. Looking at the building setbacks, clearly the structure, there's no issue to the north or to the western boundary. However, it is tucked right in the corner of the 15-foot setback on the front of the property on East Kitty Hawk Road. So you have a 15-foot setback, and then you have a 10-foot setback from the eastern side property line. So the building does comply with both of those standards, but it is tucked right in that corner, and it meets both of those, but not set back any further than that. Looking at just consideration of access, you can see there are two existing driveways here accessing the site. Due to the location of the building, it would not impact either of those, would not affect traffic flow, with the exception is that no one would be able to park in this area anymore, which segues into parking. As mentioned, there would be 3 turf stone parking spaces that were in a non-conforming location here in this corner of the property. Those would be removed as part of this project. The council may recall just last year you approved a large parking lot expansion for the business back here, sort of toward the middle of the site, toward the west of the building. With that large addition, that created a good amount of excess parking above and beyond the minimum requirements for this site. So by the time we run all the numbers, and even if we include the additional area here, the 1,152 square feet of the decks as usable area, and add that to the existing square footage of the business right now, you end up with 4,332 square feet at a ratio of 1 parking space per 100 square feet. That works up to 43, a little over 43 parking spaces, which rounds up to 44 spaces required, a minimum of 44. Even with the removal of these 3, the site would still contain 45 parking spaces. So it does comply fully with the parking with this project proposal. One of the other questions that might come up relates to provision of a buffer. You do have, as I mentioned, a residential use adjoining this property, but the reason I pointed out the zoning before is that property is also zoned Beach Commercial 1. Therefore, the buffer requirement does not apply in this case because it's zoned commercially. So they don't need to provide one in this case. Let me touch on one other thing, and then we'll go back to the one item that where there might be at least some discussion that needs to occur. Looking at this, one of the things you'll note with the proximity of this project to the ocean, just a little further to the east, it is very clearly in a flood zone that has an elevation requirement of 11 feet by the time we add our 1-foot freeboard. What I wanted to point out with this type of structure, our staff did some research on this particular issue. With the lower level being limited to a waiting area, not a service area, there won't be tables, chairs, just a waiting area that is permitted to go on that lower level, that lower deck. even though the level of that deck would more than likely be below the flood elevation. That is a permitted use as long as it remains open. So it cannot be enclosed, walls, plastic, railings that are more solid. As long as it remains open, it would comply with the standards according to our contacts with the state and FEMA. So I did want to point that out. The upper deck would be actually well above that level, and there would be no issue with that. It would comply. So going back to the one issue I wanted to touch on a little bit, and that is stormwater management. And won't go into great detail with this, but just note that presently it does not appear that there are any stormwater management improvements in this area of the property. That would serve this proposed addition. As part of this proposal, the applicant has not proposed to make any additional improvements in that regard. In the staff report, I've outlined some figures. You also have a copy of a report prepared by Joe Anloff, who was serving as the town's consulting engineer for this project, where he's covered some things related to stormwater management. So there are some different ways you could look at this issue as a council. To summarize it, there may or may not be an increase in a need to manage stormwater depending on how you calculate it. However, there would, no matter which way you look at it, there would be a change in the way that stormwater management happens. Because you're adding, right now, that's water is hitting the ground and eventually soaking in. With the construction of this roof structure, you've got 4 sides, it's traveling in each direction. That water is now running off the roof in 4 different directions. So that will change the way that stormwater occurs there. But what I wanted to just add as a summary of the planning board's take on this is, after evaluating the stormwater management situation with the applicant and Mr. Anloff, the planning board decided that any stormwater impacts would be minimal in nature and unlikely to affect adjoining properties. So the board members did not find it necessary to recommend any improvements accommodating stormwater. At their meeting on March 13th, the planning board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this site plan proposal with a number of requirements for the record, maybe to make your ultimate motion easier. I will go over those so you can just reference those. The remaining requirements would be, recommended conditions would be: the lower level of the deck structure can only be used as a waiting area for customers. Secondly, the lower level of the deck structure cannot be screened or enclosed in any manner other than railing. Third, if any exterior lighting is to be added as part of the project, a lighting plan must be approved by the Planning and Inspections Department prior to the issuance of a building permit. And fourth, that an as-built survey, building height certification, and flood elevation certificate must be submitted and approved prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. And that completes my presentation, but I'd certainly be glad to answer any questions or provide more detail as necessary.
Mr. Anloff. And for your information, Council, I'm going over to page 4 of Anloff Engineering. And this is going back to this hip-style roof. The question I have, the background on the question I'm going to ask you is, the neighbor there to the east has complained to the police department on numerous occasions about parking and things of that nature. So there is a potential for some contention there. And then I note that you say in the paragraph on page 4, second paragraph, this may have an adverse impact on the neighbor to the east, in referring to that hip-style roof. And no collection, in the next paragraph, no collection and conveyance system has been proposed to offset that. So what I'm concerned about is the potential for this to cause a problem. Will it or will it not cause a problem to the neighbor?
With the roof sloped in that direction and any roof overhang, the runoff generated from that roof surface will run on. The runoff will be pitched to the east, where it would run off into that 10-foot minimum building setback line. So it would be directed potentially towards the adjacent property. So the potential for a problem exists. Will it actually, in a clean sandy soil, it'll infiltrate rather quickly? Is it a high potential? There's some potential for runoff to be directed from that roof and the adjacent neighbor to look at it and say that roof runoff is pitched towards my property.
And is there a mechanical fix, such as gutters or something, to take care of that?
A gutter,
And-
very simply, a gutter to send it to a location to keep it on site.
All right. So if the applicant were to add that to the list of conditions, then council and the town would not have that potential problem laying out there.
That is one way to solve that very simply.
Okay. All right. I don't have anyone else have a question?
Thank you.
All right. We have a site plan review. I'm waiting for a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move to grant approval of the site plan for the two-story deck addition to Hurricane Mo's at 120 East Kitty Hawk Road, and subject to the following conditions. 1, the lower level of the deck structure can only be used as a waiting area for customers. 2, the lower level of the deck structure cannot be screened or enclosed in any manner other than railing. 3, and any exterior lighting is to be added as part of the project. A lighting plan must be approved by the Planning and Inspections Department prior to the issuance of a building permit. 4, an as-built survey, building height certification, flood elevation certificate must be submitted and approved prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. And I like the idea of having a gutter on the east side of that hip roof.
So you're going to make that a number 5?
That's number 5.
All right. Is the applicant here or just the engineer? Well, I didn't know you were the applicant. Come on up, Hoop.
He's a builder.
I'm a builder of record for Hurricane Mo's.
Right.
I'll answer any questions you have.
Do you have any problem with that
I
addition?
don't have any big problem with it. I don't think it's
Okay.
necessary.
We're just trying to prevent a problem here that we had
No, I
already.
understand. Particularly if you're saying just on the east side, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, all right. We have a motion. Did we have a second?
I'll have a second that motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Ayes have it. Thank you.
I will say, as far as stormwater is concerned, it's in a hole.
Yes.
So everybody else's water is coming there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's got a whole different problem there, that's for
Yeah.
sure. All right, we finally get into new business here. And this is awarding a pumping facility. John,
Yes,
before
sir.
I let you start, I do have one question. Do we have the easements or were easements involved?
We are in the process of getting the easements. I talked to the owner just the other day, and he was going to sign off on the easement agreement and have it notarized and send it
Okay, now there
send it
was,
to me.
there was a potential for an easement on the east side of 12 and then one where the sump was going to go.
On the east side of, that's within the right-of-way, so,
So it's okay?
yes,
All right, if you will, please.
okay. Well, we solicited bids for this Poseidon and Goose Ender Area Street Emergency Pumping Facility in February, and bids were opened on March 26th this year. The bids were opened by Mr. John DeLucia of Albemarle and Associates. It was witnessed by Charlene Allen, our finance officer, Willie Midget, our public works director, and Lynn Morris, our town clerk. The project consists of installing a collection sump basin on the property at 3612 Poseidon Street, installing 750 linear feet of 12-inch cement lined ductile iron pipe down Poseidon Street and up Tateway Road, and ending at a point on the east side of NC 12 with an 8-inch standpipe. 4 bids were submitted for the project. One from Eastern Carolina Construction for $97,250. Barnhill Contracting Company, $88,215. RPC Contracting Incorporated for $74,780. And Hatchell Concrete Incorporated for $68,926. The bids have been reviewed by Mr. DeLucia of Albemarle Associates. He recommends awarding the contract to Hatchell Concrete Incorporated with a low bid of $68,926. Mr. DeLucia is recommending that a $4,000 contingency be added to cover the cost of any unforeseen subsurface conditions. Adding a $4,000 for a contingency would make the approved amount $72,926. The engineer's estimate was $64,000, and the Powell Bill funds will be used for this particular project. It has a present balance of $458,351. Any question?
No, thank you, John. Anyone else have a question? All right, do I hear a motion?
I move to, move approval of the bid submitted by Hatchell Concrete Incorporated with a price of $68,926 plus $4,000 for contingency for a total approved amount of $72,926 for the Poseidon and Goosander Street Emergency Pumping Facility. Said funds to come from the Powell Bill Fund. I further authorize the town manager to sign and town clerk to attest a contract for the project.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. That would be 3 pumping stations of some sort, 2 stations and 1 sump. And hopefully we'll never need them. All right, we have an amendment to the town code, chapter 10. Oh, no, I'm jumping ahead.
Planning Board.
Planning Board, all right. And we're actually going to be able to fill 2 of those positions because 1 resigned and we have a volunteer. So, do I hear a nomination for Planning Board,
Do you want to do
the unexpired of Dick Fagan?
Okay, I'll do that. I move to appoint Brian Parker to the unexpired term of Dick Fagan, which office expires on June 2014.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And now we're making an appointment to the unexpired term of
Brian
Parker.
Parker.
Yeah.
I move to appoint Russ Erickson to the unexpired term of Brian Parker, term to expire June 2014?
Yes, ma'am.
Just 2014.
I'll second.
All right.
That's 2015.
2015 for Brian Parker, okay, 2015.
All right. You
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And we have 1 additional volunteer, and I'm sure we'll find a place for that one,
That one too.
but not tonight. All right. Now we have an amendment to the Town Code Emergency Management. Go ahead, John. This is
Okay,
yours.
Mr. Mayor, I recently attended a workshop on emergency management law, and it was suggested at the workshop that localities review their emergency management ordinances to see if they comply with state statutes. After reviewing the town ordinance, Chapter 10, Emergency Management, Section 10-19 to Section 10-26, we found that by updating the ordinance should be considered. I have made some changes, and I asked Mr. Michael to also review the proposed changes, and he made some additional recommendations. and I have attached the document as a result of those efforts to ensure that we do comply with state statute. The words that are underlined and in bold were recommended by me, and the highlighted sections were recommended by Mr. Michael. Any strike-through means that the wording should be deleted. So this is basically would bring us into compliance with state statute. In case there is an emergency, we should not have any problems with any reimbursement of funding for that particular situation.
And I attended that and was educated quite a bit by what we can and shouldn't do. And one of the things that came out was if we do something like a curfew or something, that we want to be sure, or we ban something, alcohol movement, things of that nature, we want to be sure and notify the police department of that ban or not ban,
Right.
so that there's no confusion, because that apparently has been an issue. And we can ban things like carrying dangerous, incendiary weapons, that sort of thing, except lawfully possessed firearms as handguns, rifles, and shotguns and ammunition. We can't ban those. So it's kind of different. Do I hear a motion?
Can I have some comments?
Sure.
On section 1021G, throughout this document, the word proclamation was changed to declaration, except in one spot, and I was wondering if that was an oversight.
Where was that?
It's section 10, let me see here, I'm sorry. That was section 1024. At the very end of the very long sentence.
It should be declaration.
It should be declaration.
It should be.
Okay, so that was just an oversight then. In reading section 1022 about evacuation orders, I got the impression that this is being given to a municipality, because it talked about the mayor, and the county does all of that for us, don't they, the Dare County?
But we have the authority to do it.
But we have the authority to do it.
Yes.
And we would be taking the people that want to stay in their houses and getting them on a Class 2 misdemeanor.
Well,
I mean, I don't know the
the
county going around doing that
The
with people
authority to
staying in
do
their
that
homes.
exists. Would I
Yeah.
do that?
Would-
Or
yeah.
would
Yeah,
Irvin
probably.
do that?
Yeah.
Not likely, but, and,
So you
know,
won't
look
be
at Superstorm-
proclaiming or declaring.
Look at Superstorm Sandy.
Yeah.
There may be an occasion where I suppose something like that could be drastic.
Well,
but
whenever
needed.
we have in the county, whenever the county issues a mandatory evacuation for the whole county, that includes our little municipalities, but not everybody goes, and you know that.
Well, that's true, but you have the emergency management group that makes that
That
determination.
decision,
Your
and they're part of
representative is
it.
in that group.
Okay, all right. So that's where the county gets to just do that single evacuation order with that concurrence.
Because, right, with the concurrence. But we could do something through this on our own.
Just for
Yes.
Kitty Hawk,
Absolutely.
if that ever were.
It could happen.
Something that we had to do. Okay, and then there was only one other thing, and that was at 1021G, where it talked about, if I can find it again, it talked about having declarations expire after, what, 5 days, I think it was. What was it, 1021, I got the wrong, declarations. What I was wondering was, is it necessary to put something in here that says that declarations must be renewed after day 5 if they're still needed? Because there was one paragraph that said that they, like, automatically expired. I think it was 5
Right.
days.
What we did, we blended what you had in your old ordinance. We didn't take everything out. That was
Oh.
something that had been decided before, so we didn't gut everything that
that.
was in there. We
Okay.
preserved a lot of it.
All right, so we just have to remember that these things are expiring and would have to renew,
That's correct.
right? And there's nothing in here about doing that.
Well,
Nothing in
well,
here
if it
that says
expires,
we
you-
will have to
You've got to
renew
renew it.
Yeah, if it were still applicable.
That's correct.
But I guess what I'm wondering is, would we remember on, day 6 that it expired yesterday?
I hope you do.
I hope we do.
Hopefully, things will have changed in 5
By
days.
then, yeah. Okay, that was the only thing that I wondered about, if there was an addition that should be made to this thing that basically specifies that you would have to do that after 5 days.
Well, you might issue it for a set period of time, such as 5 days. But if the event is over before that, then you can
Then you can
undo it.
cancel it, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And should.
yes.
So, yeah, I mean, you're doing it for some supposed period
So
of
you,
time.
so basically, you would envision that you'd be looking at all of these declarations that are in force every day to see
Yes.
which ones have to be renewed, which ones could be canceled,
Right.
and so that would be kind of the modus operandi then.
And,
Okay.
and again, it gets a little complex because we are part of a whole with the county.
Yes,
Even though we
Yes.
have that authority, we're really, the county's the guiding light on that.
Right.
Because we're all connected.
right.
All right. So we need to approve this. Do I hear a motion?
I move that the amendments to the Chapter 10 Emergency Management, Section 10-19 to Section 10-26 be approved. I further move that the mayor and the town clerk be authorized to sign the amended ordinance.
Do I hear a second? Second.
And with that one administrative change that needs to be made that Steve has.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
What will we do without you?
We'd miss a lot. That's
We
what we're gonna do. Yeah, we really would. All right. So you amended your motion?
Yes, sir.
And the second was to the amendment, and are we all in favor?
Yes, sir.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We have a new one. And now we have a petition. This one kind of caught me by surprise, to be perfectly honest. I didn't think you could drive more than 25 on Lillian Street, but apparently you can. So, we have a petition to lower the speed limit on Lillian Street to 25. And Steve, we can do that by consensus of council or motion of council?
No, you'll have to have a motion, and since it's the first time it appears on your calendar, it will take 4 votes to amend the ordinance.
And won't we have to change it in the code?
Yeah, well, that's.
It's going
that's
to
what I'm
have to
talking-
be,
Yes,
that's going to have to be an amendment to the code.
that's correct.
For Lillian Street to be included in those, because otherwise it's 35 all through town unless otherwise posted,
Correct.
correct?
You would have to put it in the code as that's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit.
So has anybody looked at the language for that?
So tonight,
You can do it tonight, with a proper motion, and it'll take 4 votes to pass it, since it would be the first time it's presented to the council.
all right, so the motion itself, though, would be to amend the town code
That's correct,
for Lillian Street to be reduced to 25 miles per hour.
correct.
All
And
right,
to be posted as such.
all right. Do I hear that?
I'll make that motion.
I have one
Oh.
question. Is there any more of the roads that are coming right off of Lillian that we might need to be looking at also?
The cross streets.
I find it hard to go 35 down any of those streets up there.
Well, Lindbergh comes down there, right, and joins it?
No. Well,
I
we're
would be-
talking West Lillian. Yeah, because
Off of West Lil-
Lillian
I'm
is
talking
just
about
the
off of
parking lot
West
pretty
Lillian.
much now. West
The
Lillian.
roads
that
that go
cross
to
it.
the right and left, I think they're going to be 35 also, and they seem to be part of the same neighborhood that we're talking about. I'm just
Well-
wondering if we might maybe ask the chief if there is a problem with maybe some speeding up in that area, or would this be a problem?
The problem lies is when they enter onto Lillian,
West Lillian from US 158, they immediately accelerate to go up the hill because it's natural and it's fun probably, I'm not sure. And then when they crest the top, they may not be going 30, they're probably going 35. I have no idea. I did set the radar trailer up there. We did not get any significant speeds. Had officers sit there. I went there today and sat. Not much traffic. It does seem that that's the problem when they accelerate. I used to have a fun time riding my bike down that hill when I was little. But, and I would recommend it. And the two streets in question are Smith, north and south, Smith Street, and Parker Street, north and south. There's been no complaints on that. Those roads are fairly safe. But I wouldn't hesitate to include them in there. But, you know, we could go on and on too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
and
could.
Let's stick to what
Okay.
we're doing here.
Okay.
We have the petition.
Okay.
And let's keep this simple, and if others want it, then we'll
And
go
then,
there.
you know, and then I'll monitor it, and then if we have a problem, if the complainant comes back and.
Sure.
We can address those.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion.
Okay, I move to reduce the speed limit on West Lillian Street to modify the town code to reduce the speed limit on West Lillian Street to 25 miles per hour.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We'll get the town code done. And we removed E. So that leaves us into reports and general comments. Mr. Manager, you're up again.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, just want to bring council and public up to date on our storm damage reduction project. Coastal Planning and Engineering has completed 2.7% of the scope of work as of March the 1st, 2014. During the month of February, Coastal Planning and Engineering completed an outline of the environmental documents. During February, CP&E began what they call the overtopping analysis and began the process of calibrating their model for vulnerability analysis. They also continued coordination with subcontractors and the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. In March, CP&E completed the calibration of their software and continued the progress towards the offshore sand search. That's what we're aiming for, is to get the sand search completed. Also, CP&E received authorization from the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management to conduct the geophysical survey, which is needed prior to the beginning of the sand search. CP&E anticipates the beginning of the geophysical survey shortly after April the 8th. According to the schedule provided by Coastal Planning and Engineering, they are on track with their progress. So we're moving forward with that project. Also wanted to mention to council that Joe had received a call from CAMA last week informing us that the town of Kitty Hawk has been selected to receive a CAMA Public Beach Access Grant in the amount of $52,941 for the Lillian Street Beach Access Parking Expansion Project. The mayor should be receiving a letter from Governor McCrory's office sometime in the next few weeks. And after which we do plan on applying for a matching grant of $17,647 from the Outer Banks Tourist Bureau in September. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Attorney.
Don't have anything else for you tonight.
All right, and comments from town council. Jeff?
No, sir.
Craig?
No, sir.
Nope.
Jim, I think, does have something?
Well, I think I want to ask some more questions before I
Before you do
talk
that?
about that.
Okay, all right. And I don't have anything, so do we have anybody for public comment? The final public comment. Most people left. All right, let the record show no one came forward. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.